2, 1.
Hi, I'm John,
I'm Andrew.
and this is Agree to Disagree.
So, we talked last week, last week to you people, a month ago to us because we're terrible at our jobs, and we talked last month about Harry Potter, which
Yes.
was a solid 2-hour rant coming from me, and this week we are going to be talking about the topic that I believe straight up crippled me, that John had been talking about for 2 weeks, which was the fact that he actually enjoys Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
I do. I really do. But before we get into that, I really want to take a step back and say that at time of recording, the second half of our Harry Potter discussion is still not online.
Right, we got
I broke
half
it
of
into
it.
2 chunks.
Which admittedly was wise. I think you get better commentary that way because you can actually hear us before, which is, keep in mind, the before part is a 40-minute discussion, which I actually, it's pretty good. I mean, once again, it's probably narcissism talking, but like, I actually enjoyed listening to us being like, oh, wow, those are actually really interesting points. Way to go, us.
And so depending on reactions for that first episode, I mean, I did it as a kind of a lark because, well, you know, they broke up the last Harry Potter movie into 2 parts. Might as well do it to a podcast
hey,
too.
I didn't even think about that. That's actually pretty funny.
But if people like that, I might just start doing that with this podcast so people can listen to us for the first half,
Right.
and then if they want, they can experience the thing too.
You do realize that's a knock against us, right? Where like the first Deathly Hallows is pretty much useless, and then the second one is just like all action.
Well, anyway.
Nah, I'm kidding. No, that's a great idea. I would actually be completely down for that.
I mean, on the
plan.
flip side, this first half of our podcast is all action in the sense that it's all like chock full of like facts from beginning to end, and then the second half is just, how did you feel?
That sounds more Kill Bill than anything else. All the stabbing, and then we get locked in a coffin, and then punch our way out after memories force us to remember how to punch things.
Oh, right, that's right.
Yeah, and then we run into our daughter, who isn't our daughter, but is our daughter, and then we murder our mentor.
Maybe sometime we'll get back to Kill Bill.
Oh, also awesome surfer music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, this episode is part 1 of Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
So let's break this down, because saying you're a fan of Final Fantasy Spirits Within is a very... look, we've covered controversial stuff on this show. I believe we have. I mean, I started off... The entire premise of the show started off by you and me sitting at the bar and me saying, I really fucking hate Scott Pilgrim. Like, that was the premise of this show, was me saying I hate a really popular thing and then not justifying it, and then we made a show.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to give some explanation here, because I really want to hear why you like Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
So let's start off with some of the facts.
Yes, hit me.
So Final Fantasy Spirits Within was released in July of 2001.
I still can't believe it was 2001.
It was 2001, and it got a 40. By today's measure, it's 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. So you're not alone in your opinion.
Apparently. Once again, keep in mind, I want to make this quick note about myself and Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think because a bad tomato meter makes it... bad tomato meter makes something unwatchable. I mean, if you look at top critics, I think The Thing has 25%, the original John Carpenter Thing, and it has 80% when you throw in the audience. I just think the tomato meter is a good idea of what to expect. I've been pleasantly surprised numerous times.
It's a general gauge.
Oh, of course.
And I've been overly critical of it in the past.
It's a meta score. It's never truly accurate.
It's a meta score, but it is based off of an aggregate of major critics and not so major critics.
Mm-hmm.
So before this movie came out, 2001. So I'm going to go back in time to the big granddaddy of all CG movies, which was
Toy Story.
Toy Story.
You know what we need to do is if you're saying we need to go back to 1995, we need to do the Wayne's World. Diddle-doo, diddle-doo, diddle-doo. All right, we're back at 1995. Go.
Okay, so you got Toy Story came out in 1995.
Yeah.
A year later, a movie came out called Cassiopeia in 96. It was made in Brazil, actually.
Okay.
It was a movie that they had been working on for a long time, and they made the entire thing on like these old 486 machines.
Okay, you're going to have to explain 486 machines to our audience and me.
So 486, think of a computer that runs at about 66 megahertz and may or may not have any kind of dedicated graphics.
Lovely. All right.
Anyway, after that, 98 ants. followed very closely by...
Wait, hang on. Side note, was Ants a Disney production, or was that the DreamWorks production of A Bug's... That was the DreamWorks ripoff of A Bug's Life, wasn't it?
Yes.
Hey,
because
look at
that
me with
same
all these
year,
facts.
right after Ants came out, literally months after Ants came out, came Bug's Life.
Right.
Which started this whole kind of back and forth thing
Where
between...
DreamWorks totally
Yeah.
isn't ripping off Disney.
Uh-huh.
Well, Pixar.
And depending on if you want to count this or not, South Park came out in 99. South Park counts because all of the animation is actually done in Maya,
Wait,
which is a 3D animation.
Wait, the
suite.
original South Park came out in
The
99.
South Park movie.
Oh, thank God. Oh, oh, you made me feel super old there for a moment. It was just like, wait, oh, God, why?
No, actually, the original South Park series started like in 96.
I want to say 96 sounds accurate.
And then 2000 rolls around. You got Alice is a 2D sci-fi comedy drama, which I actually sent you information about. That was that weird like anime.
Oh, was that the like thing with the crazy description where I'm like,
Yeah.
that sounds awesome.
You people at home, you need to look this up. It's Alice, A.Li.C.E.
Yep, this thing.
It's crazy. 2000 is a movie called Dinosaur. Then in 2001, you got Shrek, which came out in May. And then in July, you have Spirits Within.
Right. So we are in, just to be correct, month and year. Where are we?
So we are July 2nd, 2001.
So we are the summer blockbuster scene of 2001.
Yes. And then as a side note, at the end of that year came Pixar's next big hit, Monsters, Inc.
Oh, God.
That came out in November.
This puts things in so much perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want you to think about the movies that came out before, and even in the case of Monsters, Inc., after Spirits Within, no one else was trying to do like a serious, realistic 3D animated movie. Like
Right.
no one else was anywhere near that.
I feel like so it sounds like the only people who are working on that at this point were DreamWorks and Pixar, and then occasionally a random third party. In this case, the Square. They weren't Square Enix at that point,
No,
were they?
they were
were
not.
Square.
Which I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh no! Is that what caused the merger?
Nope, hang on.
Okay, fair enough.
You're jumping ahead.
So Square Films. What were they actually? Was it Square Films or was it?
It was called Square Films.
Oh, it
Or
was called
Square Studios.
Square Studios. Okay,
Yes,
so Square.
they opened a film development studio in Hawaii.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yes.
That sounds very Square. But all right, so
Really, I thought it sounded pretty groovy.
I hate you. So Square was the random third party in the Pixar DreamWorks boxing match that was this era of CGI movie making.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
So you got Square, and they got bankrolled and backed by
Enix Corporation. Sorry, we're getting too far.
Sorry, I'm just looking back at my notes. I should have read these. Give me a second.
No, take your time.
I'm gonna chop this
it's
part
not
out.
like we're not gonna edit this. I feel like I should be just doing elevator sounds. Okay,
here we go.
Do.
So this movie was bankrolled by Columbia Pictures.
Really?
Yes.
Columbia.
Columbia.
Okay.
Which I believe is a subsidiary of Sony.
Yeah, to be serious, I wouldn't be shocked if Sony like also bankrolled through another company
Yeah.
because at that point I believe Final Fantasy and Square was specifically making exclusive content for the PlayStation.
So them
I
funding
got an entire rant about that.
them funding this movie is notable because it's the first animated movie that they had funded since 1986.
Wait, real? What movie did they fund in '86?
Care Bears 2.
Oh fuck! Really? That's a bad track record.
I know,
Dan
right?
Dunn.
The only two movies that you could just pull out of your hat that they funded have both been box office bombs.
Oh my god. Oh, God, you know it was the same guy, too. You know it was the same guy who's like, no, guys, I'm going to make up for the last one. It's fine. I found this crazy movie called Final Fantasy The Spirits Within. It'll make up for the Care Bears. I can make our money back. It's like that gambler that you don't trust your money with. It's like your buddy who's too drunk at a casino who's like, no, we're going to put it all on red. It's going to come up red. It's fine.
Black.
And then just tears and shouting and like thrown martini glasses
and broken knees.
and very broken knees.
Okay, so the original estimated budget for this movie, because we like talking about numbers here.
We do, especially in the beginning parts of the episode.
This movie, the estimated budget was $70 million.
Ho!
And that was the original budget. The final cost, including marketing for this movie,
Oh no!
was $137 million.
Oh fuck!
And it grossed
How much?
85 worldwide.
This is a $50 million loss. 50 million.
Yes.
Wow.
This company. Okay, so Square used. It's good. If I stumble and say Square Enix, I apologize.
It's Squaresoft, but yeah.
Squaresoft. They invested a bunch of the money early on into their studio in Hawaii. It was really important to Sakaguchi that they get out of Japan and have more of an American kind of appeal for the film.
Okay, quick note. Can I just say that is what has consistently ruined Final Fantasy over the past many, many years? Is
We
like,
are not
we
talking
have
about
to
Final
appeal
Fantasy
to
15 right now.
Americans.
Yeah.
It's like, this is fucking terrible.
Japan, the people who like Square Enix, the people who like your products in America don't want Final Fantasy to make them feel like they're in America.
Okay. I really don't want to go on an entire tangent about Final Fantasy, so I'm gonna stop myself.
That'll be some other
But
day.
I will say that I feel like a lot of what ends up driving the good Final Fantasy games into not so great Final Fantasy games are characters or ideas that are specifically aimed at an American audience. So characters like Barrett or characters like Squall, where you're like, that was clearly meant for an American, or the other guy, the one in the cowboy hat from FF8. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Whoever that asshole. No one cares about his name. It's Final Fantasy VIII.
Well, I love Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh,
Maybe
I got our
another
topic.
episode.
I got our topic. Hey John. Hey John.
Yeah.
You know what I hate?
Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes. Anyway,
Yes. Get in line.
it's a long line. No, it's like I feel like a lot of those things tend to. I feel like the second you say we're going to make we're going to make our movie appeal to, you can finish that statement with "this is not going to work."
We're going to make our movie appeal to no one.
Exactly, because you end up trying to appeal to an audience that doesn't care and ruining your original content in that way. At least from my experience.
So of the original $70 million budget, Square spent $45 million on the studio in Hawaii.
Wait,
because
what?
the idea was that they were investing in the whole future. Their plan was to make a bunch of movies with the most advanced computer graphics in the world.
All the cash on the CGI.
They had a render farm. Do you know what a render farm is?
I do know what a render farm is.
For those who don't know,
for our audience,
a render farm is a collection of computers that you have networked together that will render frames for your movie. So they're basically a thing that draws the individual cells of a movie.
Which, if you've ever had to render video in any way whatsoever, you know how much of a pain in the ass that can be. And a render farm is basically meant to specifically make that easier, especially when you're making giant computer-generated productions and you don't need human beings on hand for the rendering process.
So they had a few very specialized machines. Like they had something. It was like 4 Silicon graphics machines, and those were expensive, by the way.
That's a big deal back in the day.
And a bunch of other specific 3D animating hardware. But the thing that took the cake was they had 960 Pentium 3 workstations in their render farm, which that's a fuck ton, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. Especially back in, what was it, 2001?
2001. These were top of the line. Computers.
Hang on though. Let's think about it this way. 2001 was the year that the movie came out. We have to imagine production.
Oh, that's true.
Production was happening in 99, which means that's an actual dump truck of money. Like that's so much cash going into this.
So the movie itself, and I want you to think about this. I'm sorry, I keep throwing numbers out there.
No, this is fine because I think it'll put everything into perspective a little bit later.
This movie consists of 141,964 frames. So a little over 140,000 frames. And each machine that was in the render farm took about 90 minutes to render each frame. And that's not even including like all the initial animation they worked, the render tests.
So because I assume you've done this, what is your ludicrous calculation for how long this took?
They did, I didn't write this down. They wrote something like the entire movie cost something like 200 years to make.
Oh my God. Oh God. Okay. Well, all right.
Okay.
That's
so
reference point.
Now let's stop talking. I'm going to stop talking about numbers and I'm going to talk about this movie.
Okay. So let's get into the nitty gritty.
So this was a movie that was penned by Sakaguchi. Hironobu Sakaguchi, who invented Final Fantasy.
Do we want to tell the myth behind Final Fantasy? Can I do it?
Go ahead, Andrew.
All right. So the myth behind Final Fantasy is actually one of my favorite stories in gaming and anything involving like media, period. The story is that Square which wasn't Squaresoft at this point, which was just Square, the maker of NES games, was failing miserably. They'd been making a bunch of games, rapid fire, nothing was sticking, and their audience just wasn't there. And so Sakaguchi, who was one of the current lead developers, came to a realization of, we either have to make a really good game, or I am going to have to quit this dream of mine and go back to school. And Final Fantasy was made because it was literally, and this is why I love the name and why I will forever love the series, was its literal Final Fantasy. He was making a fantasy game to attempt to escape from the real world that was the fact that he would have to go back to school if this failed. And then Final Fantasy 1 sold gangbusters, and Square revived itself, and ever since then has been alive. But it's just one of those great, like, Cinderella stories of the early game industry that I absolutely adore. Because Sakaguchi, I have my qualms with him, and I have many qualms with him, and I have many qualms with Nomura, and I've got issues with Square Enix as a whole right now. But there is something to really love about the underdog tale that was the founding of Square and the continued existence of Square and Sakaguchi's story. I absolutely adore Final Fantasy in that regard.
So Hironobu Sakaguchi. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, of course. I love that story.
I love that story too. So Hironobu Sakaguchi. And sorry if I butchered that, but he hit the whole nugget that invented this story for the movie. Was that his mother had passed away a few years beforehand, and it got him thinking about the more it got him thinking about the afterlife and things like that, and it got him wanting to think. He wanted to write a story that was a more complex idea of life and death and spirit.
So he made Final Fantasy VII? Oh wait, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm sure that played into it.
No,
yeah.
Actually, for reference, I think it may not have been Sakaguchi, but I know either him or Nomura lost someone, and that's why they made FF7, was because they wanted an idea of existing beyond death, and that's what made the live stream.
There's a part of me that still wants to say that was Sakaguchi because
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked because I think that sounds like a Sakaguchi thing, especially. So this may have been the remnants of live stream and FF7 ideas poured into a film, which actually sounds kind of awesome.
So I'm sorry if people got lost there. I haven't properly broke down from memory what the story of Final Fantasy Spirits Within is.
Admittedly, for reference, I saw it once when I was 10, remembered despising it, saw it probably once when I was 14, and that's it.
So here's what I recall from having not seen the movie in probably over 10 years.
Go for it.
You have a group of people that exist in a future where alien specters have plagued mankind and almost completely wiped everyone out.
Okay.
And they have developed technology to be able to maintain and hold back these spirits, but it's really expensive, and they have to collect resources to keep the energy that powers their way of life, essentially.
Okay.
So you have groups of people that go outside the protective barriers of, in this case, I believe it's New York City.
Right, because this one's actually alternate history fiction. This is like the first Final Fantasy.
It was important to Sakaguchi that
this
take place on Earth because he wanted to ground it in the real world in some way.
Which is hilarious considering the actual content of the later sections of the movie.
Honestly, if it didn't take place on Earth, people might have been a little bit more forgiving of it. But
I would have been.
So you have these specter-like creatures, and the thing about them is if they touch you at all, you basically are like, you're going to die if you get touched by any of these specter
creatures. Is it you
creatures.
become them, or you're just dead?
No, I think they suck your soul out of your body. Like they get dragged along with it.
Holy crap. So
not in like a Dementor way, just sort of like you're walking down a busy street and like someone brushes up against you. Mm-hmm. It's like that, except imagine their flesh is sandpaper and it just kind of drags your essence away.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah, completely horrifying.
That's actually super scary.
So we're living in a sort of a post-apocalyptic dystopian future where the government is run by the military, and it's sort of like a clash between science versus military.
Sure.
Like, do we solve this problem or do we just survive? Kind of thing.
That might be the most. I love how you added in the metal survive in there. I'm pretty sure someone at Metal Gear Solid is currently trying to call you back.
Wait, hang on a second. I think I hear my codec going off.
No, wait, one sec.
Colonel.
Isn't the new Metal Gear Solid called Survive or some nonsense like that?
I don't know.
It's the one that isn't made by
If it's not made by Hideo Kojima,
it's not made by
care.
Kojima. It's a Konami game because they're monsters. Anyway,
I think you're talking about their pachinko machine.
Oh, I think I'm talking about everything. What's the Jim Sterling phrase? Hashtag,
I think you're talking about
hashtag fuck Konami.
I think based off the fact that we saw that they announced a Bomberman game for the Switch, that might actually be Konami's mantra right now is just survive.
wait, we're running out of money for the pile. Release Bomberman. It's fine. Just he'll get the cocaine pile going again.
At least they got it right. It's actually a Bomberman game.
It's kind of hard to fuck up, really.
I dare you to look at the version that was made for the Xbox 360.
I'm okay, thank you.
All right. So, anyway, Sakaguchi made this movie, and it was critically panned. Like, all of the major reviewers all agreed on the same thing, that this could be an interesting sci-fi story, but they were left feeling cold and dead. And that was not just the animation falling into the uncanny valley, but it was also some of the deliveries by the actors.
Point of order. I'm going to call this one because one of the people who got me into criticism is a very idea period. One of my favorite people on the planet, obviously before he died, Roger Ebert, loved the hell out of this film.
Loved this movie. But Roger Ebert is a guy that also gets very taken away in the positive way by like technical feats.
But to me, I've always personally, and I think our audience kind of understands this to a certain extent, despite the fact that I made fun of Harry Potter for about, what was it, like 3 hours on the fact that none of their stuff makes sense, I am very much I try to be in the Ebert camp of I'm willing to suspend my disbelief because, man, movies are fun sometimes. And that was the way Ebert saw films, and it was really interesting because I actually looked up reviews for this a couple of weeks ago. And, God, Roger Ebert's movie review of this is just so cheery and happy and just, like, critically interested, but recognizes the flaws, but also is like, this is the world's first cyber movie, and I really love this conceptually, and it's cool, and I enjoyed it. 3.5 out of 4. I don't know. It was really nice to hear him just be so calm and happy about something that everyone nowadays can be so angry about, to be like, yeah, it was a good film. I liked it.
So I wrote down 2 major quotes from 2 reviews.
Okay. One
of them positive, the other one negative.
Sure.
The positive one was from Variety.
All right.
It was Todd McCarthy, if that means anything to anyone.
That does not.
This big screen adaptation of the long popular interactive computer game is visually is visually impressive, if not dramatically cool, and is marked by acting, in quotes, that is no worse than that found in the majority of sci-fi films.
In their defense...
Wait, I got one.
Oh, you got one? All right, sorry.
As computer game-derived features go, it sure beats Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
I'm just going to say generically,
I mean,
they're not wrong on any of those fronts.
They're not wrong. I mean, my favorite part about Tomb Raider was that Rimmer was in it from Red Dwarf, but that's about it.
I like Angelina Jolie in the movie. What can I say? I mean, it's enjoyable.
We're talking like peak Angelina Jolie.
I mean, you're also talking about the terrible game that was Tomb Raider when you actually go back and look at it. That series does not age well, man.
I mean, the new ones are from what I understand, are supposed to be really good.
So I like the new one. The 2013 remake was pretty good.
Let's talk about this review, though.
I don't disagree. It seems like they're trying very hard to fish for you know what, and I think that the very idea was an interactive computer game. Haven't played a Final Fantasy game at all.
No.
This reviewer has no idea what they're talking about.
No, they took the time to find out that this was based off of a video game franchise.
That's it. And to be very serious, though, I think one thing that we all forget, especially nowadays since we're in the early 2000s, and well, not early, but like late section of this section of the 21st, whatever, it's 2017, fuck off. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but what I'm saying in regards to this review is the fact that we are kind of spoiled in 2017 to forget that geek culture wasn't as well loved as it was at the time. And in 2001, you can't really expect a movie reviewer to take the time to play through a Final Fantasy game. Like, that just was not accepted. It'd be like asking someone who is watching a movie right now to read through the entire book series that a movie was based on before attempting to go see the film. They'd be like, okay, you're watching, I don't know, some YA thing. You're watching Allegiant. I want you to go back and read Divergent and Allegiant and whatever the one was, Insurgent. There we go, the one in between. read that entire series, and then go watch the movie. That's ridiculous.
No,
and it's the same thing
completely
with
ridiculous.
It's the same thing with during this time period where it was just unexpected for a movie reviewer to ever know what the thing they were ranting about was. If I showed you, and this goes back to our Super Mario Brothers movie review. If I show you the Super Mario Brothers movie, the only way you're going to know it is maybe as the jumping guy, but even then you're probably just going to remember it from like friends of yours telling you about it. No one ever, and no, I don't think anyone who actually reviewed this movie in the time had ever played a Final Fantasy game.
Oh, doubtful. What do you think? I think that okay, I agree with you, but I also want to point out that they took a moment in this review to just kind of like take a jab at sci-fi movies in general, where they were like, yeah, the acting's pretty flat, but so is it in most sci-fi, and it's like,
to be very serious, they still do that.
I mean, to be very serious, I think this movie came out shortly after Phantom Menace. So I'm pretty sure.
Did they come out in the same summer season?
I think they might. I need to look this up. I will look this up. I will look this up between episodes, and we'll talk about that.
I think they came out in the same summer season.
All
I
right.
don't know which was more disappointing.
I mean, you want to talk about flat acting. Anyway, negative review was from the Chicago Reader.
Okay.
And they said, I never stopped marveling at the thousands of individually delineated pores and hair strands of the heroine, but the thin story covering her acquisition of one wave after another while narrowly escaping death time and again is strictly for player one. So this person got real colorful. Like, you could tell that they wrote this and they're like, I am so clever.
Someone was very much sniffing their own farts when they were writing this. This is the exact thing from a South Park episode where they're like, oh yes, we're from San Francisco. Yes, like that is exactly.
We're just a little bit more progressive here.
It was just a European city like Paris or Milan. It's the kind of thing that you can smell the pretentiousness on it.
It's like the person that you're talking to about food or something. I use food a lot as an example, and they say they don't say croissant, they say croissant. Or they say mozzarella.
Yeah, it's that kind of like small thing where you're like, God damn it, you're trying too hard.
It's actually pronounced Barcelona.
No one actually.
That's the way they pronounce it there.
No one actually cares. Does the Barkin family know you? Have you met fucking Hannibal? I don't care.
So this movie had a huge cast of characters. Actors that you would recognize.
I think you went through the cast earlier, but if I remember correctly,
no,
hang on,
not
because I read this one, and I'm rather proud of the fact that I read this one. Ming-Na Wen, who is known from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now.
Not to mention, she's also known as Chun-Li from the Street Fighter movie.
Nobody cares about the Street Fighter
Mulan.
movie.
She was the voice of Mulan.
Everybody cares about the Mulan thing. That's actually very valid. No one cares about the Street Fighter movie except you and me, though. To be very serious, you and I are probably
in JKVD.
Well, it's like us caring about the Mortal Kombat movie, where it's like no one actually cares about the Mortal Kombat movie, but I love that film.
Oh, that movie's awesome.
The movie's great.
It's terrible movie.
Oh, it's atrocious,
so awesome.
but it's amazing. Alec Baldwin's in this movie for some reason. Steve Buscemi is in this movie for some reason. Oh God, is Ving Rhames in this movie?
Yes,
Ving Rhames is in this movie. Oh man, there's somebody else who's super popular who I'm forgetting. Oh my God, Donald Sutherland's in this movie.
Bing, bing, bing.
There we go.
And let's not forget two other maybe smaller actors, but you got James Woods is in it.
Oh yeah, James Woods is the bad guy.
James Woods is in it, and so is Perry Gilpin.
I don't even know who that is.
Perry Gilpin is the lady who played Roz in Frasier. She was the producer for Frasier's radio show.
What?
Yeah.
Really? That is a random side note.
She plays a character named Jane.
Okay. Sure, I believe it.
I saw that, and I'm looking at all the names, and I'm like, oh, I recognize all these people. And then Perry Gilpin, I'm like, Perry Gilpin? And
what the hell are you doing in this film?
My brain, and I'm like, holy shit, Roz is in this?
I can feel like part of your ear, just like blood oozing down your ears. You're doing that, just like, oh, what?
I mean, to be fair, I love Frasier. Frasier's great.
I haven't actually watched any of Frasier.
You should watch Frasier. It's the dumb. In the words of Kevin Smith.
Sure.
Once you realize the show is making fun of people like that, it's so good.
No, I see that.
The show
I get
takes
that.
itself seriously to the point of being absurd.
See, I just love Kelsey Grammer and anything involving The Simpsons. I will love him as Sideshow Bob forever and eternally because god damn it, that character's hilarious.
So back to the point that you were making before about Square and Enix merging.
Yeah, so
That,
hit me
that
with the facts
merger
here.
actually started in 2000. They were laying down the groundwork for the merger between Square and Enix in the year 2000. And the fact that this movie was such a huge financial and social bomb led to the merger actually taking longer, and it almost didn't happen.
Enix thought they were such a caustic property after this film that they wanted nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, then.
It's kind of amazing that the merger ever happened.
I'm actually kind of astonished.
So this movie was such a financial bomb that the studio that they opened up in Hawaii, which they intended on... So after this movie was a huge financial and just all-around flop, Square immediately said, we are never going into the movie business again.
Sure. I would too after this.
And then in 2002, so a year after the movie comes out, they shut down the studio. They shut down
$45 million down.
$47.
$47
No,
million
you're right,
down
45.
$45 million down the drain. After
45.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Now, that being said, even though this movie was a flop, there are people who still looked at it and pulled some good stuff out of it. So,
I mean, Ebert was one of them. I mean,
Ebert's one of
obviously you're one of them.
Sakaguchi is also one of them. He maintains to this day that he's pleased with the final cut of the movie, and he would not change anything.
Okay. Sakaguchi, though, is not a very reliable narrator, shall we say. If I remember correctly, he's actually pleased with every single cut of every single Final Fantasy game, which I can tell you a numerous list of reasons as to why that's wrong.
Also, didn't he make Blue Dragon?
He did.
Yeah, I got some words for him.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
So
I think he was involved in Lost Odyssey, too. Maybe I'm losing my mind.
I think so. I think those were both made by his spin-off
Lost
studio.
Odyssey was actually supposed to be pretty damn
Lost
good.
Odyssey. Anyway, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, no, complete side note.
So one other thing that was of note in the Wikipedia page was that the art director for Mass Effect actually lists the style of like the costume and the effects of the movie heavily influenced the development of
I
Mass
got
Effect.
Mass Effect out of this film?
Yes.
Shit, all right, I'm fine with this movie now.
So something that was a huge flop ended up being something that influenced what people could argue is the greatest sci-fi series made in the past 10 years.
I would genuinely argue that. Also, I feel like that's a common theme in fiction, period, is that someone has underappreciated genius and then somebody else who ends up becoming the real appreciated genius ends up stealing that, not stealing that, but adapting that and changing it into their own thing and then making better things off of it.
So I've talked a lot about how other people reacted to this movie, but I want to talk about why I like this movie for a second.
No, go ahead. I really do want to hear this.
So I like this movie because, first of all, it encapsulates something that no one was doing at the time. They tried making a full feature-length CG 3D animated movie, and they didn't want to make it about like toys. They didn't want to make it about weird like monsters. They made it about people.
It feels very much like a actual CGI version of some kind of anime, where it's that same style of animation only adapted to something more adult.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of like what I imagine Akira must have felt like to everybody, where they're like, we're taking this thing that used to be meant for cartoons and we're going to adapt it into something that means more to the people who are now old enough where those kind of cartoons don't mean that much.
They were trying to use a medium that could have easily always just been done for family movies or children's movies and tell a serious story with it.
Sure. Okay. In that angle, I understand.
From that angle, I appreciate. I will agree that like the movie suffers from the whole uncanny valley effect.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues with it, but I maintain that even though the story might be dry or maybe some of the delivery might be flat, they're still telling a story that is damned interesting.
Yeah. No, and to be very serious, I'm gonna date this, but currently I'm making my way through the best pictures and for this year 2017's Oscars, and I just finished watching La La Land, and my opinion was very simple. I was talking to one of my best friends who I watch all of these movies with, and I was like, yeah, it's really tropey, it's super badly written, it's not very well, like the writing's super predictable, but damn it if it isn't just a charming fucking film. And the thing is, you can get past all of those problems if you have things that endear you to the audience that you're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
If you have something that's interesting enough to present and something that's like fascinating enough as a concept, you can win over an entire audience.
Even the worst movies can still have that moment where they strike on something either very true,
yeah,
or something that's just very interesting.
Right. And I feel like The Spirits Within maybe, and once again, I was 10 when I saw this film. I may have been 9, to be very serious. It came out in July, right?
Yes.
I was 10. Okay, I was 10 years old. I feel like a lot of that may have been lost on me, and I haven't seen this movie in a long time.
I think it's kind of funny that you bring up you were 10 because I was 16.
Okay.
Which means that you and I were both in 2 completely different mental spaces.
Entirely different mental spaces. Then again, I was also, as I stated in the last episode, I was also reading at a 7th grade level at age 6. So, maybe we're in the same general area. I don't know.
You weren't growing hair in weird places yet.
Anyway, so... But seriously, I feel like maybe we were walking in with 2 different perspectives, and that's something we should look at when we're watching this again. Maybe try and watch it in our current mind spaces rather than the older ones on this.
I'm gonna throw away. In the past, I used to get us to say, like, oh, we'll experience this from this perspective.
No, and I still like that idea, but I think we should watch this.
We're going to be watching this with fresh eyes.
I think that's the best idea of looking, because I think with the Super Mario Brothers movie, it was justifiable, where it's like, this movie's not going to be entertaining regardless, but let's at least attempt to see what the 90s may have seen in this film. This time around, maybe there is something better.
I implore you to try and experience this movie with eyes unclouded by hate.
You do realize that this entire conversation was just us spitting numbers and just talking for a while?
Yeah.
Because neither of us remembered what goddamn happened in this movie.
No, I do recall what happened, and I tried to summarize it, but then I kind of got sidetracked.
Also, I kind of don't want you to tell me because it's been long enough where I really want to see what happens.
I purposely am not going to tell the ending.
I do only barely remember things. I remember some visuals that really stuck with me, but honestly, that's about it.
So we're going to take a break now, and we're going to come back hopefully next week, and we're going to talk about what it was like watching the movie again.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.